So today we are back with another Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392 video, and in this video I wanted to discuss some of the frustrating parts about owning a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392. Now, as with any kind of video that I talk about some of the negative parts about my 392, I do always want to say that I had to be very nitpicky in this video because this is something that normal Jeep Wrangler owners don't care about. I like to get my Jeep dirty, but also I like to keep it clean when I'm not off-roading it actively, just to make it look nice and keep it rust-free for as long as possible. And I'm sure a lot of you guys probably understand that mindset, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there probably have that same mindset as well. So basically, first off, before we get to that, I also wanted to point out that one of the frustrating parts about Jeep Wrangler ownership is the fact that the windshield is so flat. And I think that's one difference that they made coming from the JK to the JL, is that they made it more slanted. Now, the reason why it's frustrating is because it cracks very easily, and it also leaves a lot of chips in the windshield. So not sure if it's going to actually show up on camera here, but there's just a whole bunch of micro chips in the windshield that are just from little rocks and pebbles hitting the windshield. Now, luckily I don't have any kind of actual cracks in the windshield yet, but I'm sure you guys know Jeep Wranglers are known and famous for getting windshield cracks super easily. Now, there is a factory option with these Wranglers to get Gorilla Glass, and I've heard many different mixed reviews on the actual quality of Gorilla Glass compared to the stock factory glass that these things come with. So I don't have any experience, but I know it is an option to get, more higher quality glass. And like I said, not sure if it actually is higher quality or if it's just a gimmick glass. But I have the stock factory glass and I still don't have any rock chips with about 2,000 miles. So I'm hoping that I don't have to deal with any kind of cracked windshields in the future either. Now, onto the cringy part about actually trying to keep my Jeep Wrangler 392 clean. One of the parts that are known to get very dirty on these Jeeps is in between these little fender flares and the actual body. Now, if you look very closely, you'll see a bunch of rocks, dirt, and leaves. It's super easy for stuff to get trapped in there, especially down here because it's just kicking off of the front tires. Now, it does have a factory clear coat protection here on this portion of the fender, which is supposed to help against rock chips. So luckily that's there, but as you can probably see, there's still a whole bunch of dirt and debris that gets stuck in between the body and the actual fender right there. So that's one frustrating part. Now, one thing that I've done is that whenever I wash this thing, I usually go to a self-service car wash to actually wash this thing, because if you just use a wash mitt, you're not really going to be able to get in between all the cracks and underneath the Jeep as well, which is what I like to do. So with the power washer, I usually just go in here and just put it directly in this little crack. Now, it's not going to get every little piece of debris and all the rocks out of there, especially if they're wedged in there pretty good, but it's the best method that I've found to actually clean in between this crack without taking off the entire fender and doing it that way. So same thing up here up front. Now, front isn't going to be too bad because in the back you have the tires kicking up all the debris at the fenders, but the front still does have some rocks and stuff in between these cracks here. Now, I also do have some nice bird poop here, so definitely going to be washing this Jeep today, and I'm going to show you guys my process for washing this thing as well. But I wanted to show you guys what we're actually working with here. So definitely got this thing pretty dirty. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks since the last time I've washed this thing, and that was right after taking it off-road. Definitely check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. Yeah, that's one of the parts of the Jeep that I've noticed that is kind of hard to keep clean. And then there's also many different I don't know, secret pockets that I like to call them, that just catch dirt very easily. So one of those being behind this little fender liner right here in the bumper end cap. So this is actually just a piece of plastic that's connected to the steel bumper right here, and it's basically just a big hole. If you kind of peel it back here, you can see there's probably a bunch of dirt and mud stuck back there because it's completely covered up. So it's easy for mud and dirt to actually get back here, and it's hard to actually clean it out. So what I've done is that when I go to the car wash, I just stick that power washer right up through the bottom here and just try to get as much of it out as I can. But of course, it's not possible to get all of it unless you're taking it completely apart, crawling underneath the Jeep and doing it that way, because you can't actually see what you're cleaning back there. Now, luckily I do have my 392 undercoated. I did undercoat this thing with the Adams Polishes Advanced Graphene Ceramic Coating. I do have a tutorial on that, so make sure to check it out if you're interested. But the ceramic coating actually makes it very easy to actually clean the body of my Jeep. So I'm not too worried about keeping the body clean because, like I said, with that ceramic coating, it definitely does help to protect the paint and any other part that's ceramic coated, like the windows and wheels, for example. My main concern is keeping everything else clean that is not ceramic coated, such as the underside, which gets rusty very easily. As you guys know, with my Jeep Cherokee XJ, rust is a huge issue with that thing as well, especially for pretty much all old Jeeps. Rust is a pretty serious issue. If you guys have old Jeeps, you definitely know what I'm talking about. But with a Jeep like this, I definitely want to take care of all that rust and prevent it from happening from the very beginning, so I don't have to run into those issues later on down the road. So I was thinking about getting this Jeep undercoated like I did with my XJ as well, but I went to the shop to ask about that, and you know, they kind of just recommended that I don't go for the undercoating right away. They recommended that after I take this thing off-roading, I just give it a nice wash and actually get underneath with a power washer and keep it clean. So as you can see, I've been doing my best with that, but you know, it's not really possible to get every single speck of dust and dirt off of the underside. So you can see, like right there, there's still a good amount of dirt and mud kind of trapped, you know, underneath those the rock rails back there. Now I know it probably sounds like I've been complaining a lot about my Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392, but I really don't have any complaints. Like, it's a Wrangler with a 392 V8 Hemi in it. You really can't complain about anything with this Jeep. I'm just kind of saying the nitpicky things that I've noticed so far after about 3 months of owning this thing. So would I change anything? No, I would not. And even though the fender flares do catch dirt and mud very easily, I wouldn't change the design of them because they just look very good. And of course, with the underside, keeping that thing clean, there's really not much you can change to, you know, keep it clean from mud. So, you know, I am being very nitpicky with this video, but with all that being said, I wouldn't change anything about this Jeep. Like I said in the beginning anyways, these Jeeps are made for off-roading. They're made to get dirty. So, you know, I'm not gonna make this thing a garage queen if it's made to go off-roading. Now my XJ kind of is a garage queen because it's a preservation and restoration project, so kind of a bit of a different story. It really just all depends on what you want to do with your Jeep. And with this Jeep, I want to make it kind of like an all-around fun vehicle for me, you know, take it on road trips, take it off-roading, but I also do want to keep it clean at the same time. So we're actually going to go ahead and head to the car wash and show you guys how easy this thing is to clean up after ceramic coating it, because it definitely does deserve a nice wash. After about 3 weeks of driving this thing, you can see it definitely did collect some nice dirt and debris in the fender flares and some nice bird poop here as well. That sound with a factory warranty for sure never gets old. So we are now back from the car wash, and I have to say I didn't actually film anything inside the car wash, because if you guys have ever been to a car wash on a nice sunny day like this and it's an actual good quality car wash, then you know how busy those places can get and how impatient some people can get too. So I definitely have experience with that. I used to work at a super busy car wash, so I definitely know how customers can get on busy days. So didn't take the camera with me, but I wanted to go ahead and show you guys the finished product of how the Jeep turned out here. So as you can see, definitely turned out very well. Now, one thing that you'll notice after washing a Jeep that you've taken off-road is that all the different scratches and swirl marks and, you know, rock chips show up a lot easier after you've washed it. So just a few examples here that I'll show you on my own Jeep here. On these rock rails here, you'll see I have a good amount of scratches here. Not really a good amount, but I do have a few scratches from, you know, like rocks and sticks hitting it from the previous off-roading trip that I went on. So you can see one right there, a few right there, and right there. Not sure how well they're actually going to show up, but there's another scratch here on the rocker panel right there. So all this stuff is definitely going to show up a lot easier. Got a few scratches here on the side mirrors as well, some chips. Now I do also want to talk about the little rock chips that I mentioned that were in the windshield. So after I actually washed it, they actually all went away. So they weren't actual chips. They must have just been like small pieces of dirt and debris that got stuck to the windshield, and it just looked like they were, you know, kind of like indented into the windshield. So luckily those are not actual rock chips that I have to worry about in the windshield. Another part that I noticed a lot here is this portion here of the fender that I mentioned in the beginning of the video. So like I said, there is kind of like a protective film here on this portion of the fender, which kind of is supposed to protect any kind of rocks and debris from flinging up from the tire and hitting it. Not sure how it's going to show up here, but you can definitely see parts of it are already kind of like chipped off. Right there is a good example if you can see that on camera. Then right here is another good one. You can probably see that right there. So just a few minor spots to kind of look out for as well. And then also what I mentioned about a lot of rocks, dirt, and debris getting kind of stuck in between the fender and the body. So if you can see right here, the actual car wash that I went to had like a, it was a self-service car wash. So it just had a power washer, and I used it on my Jeep. It had, pre-soak, high pressure foam, wax, degreaser, rinse, all that fun stuff. I personally only use the pre-soak, the high pressure soap, and the rinse. So I don't really mess with any of the other functions. It costs $10 for 10 minutes of washing, so that's kind of the process that I use whenever I'm using those self-service car washes. So if you look here between the fender and the body, you can kind of see, I tried my best to just get the power washer right in there and get all those rocks out, and looks like pretty much all of them came out. There is just a little bit of, a little bit of dirt left over. It's not really dirt, it's just like part of the fender that I couldn't actually get to whenever I was rinsing it off and drying it off with a towel. So if I was able to actually get my towel in there and actually dry it off by hand, then it definitely wouldn't look like that, like how it looks right now. But I definitely am pretty happy with the result of how that turned out for sure. Now, one thing that I've also noticed here is that this Jeep for some reason gets very dusty after I wash it. Not sure how well it's going to show up here, but you can see kind of on the back window if I do that. Not sure if it's showing up at all, but it's super dusty. It's probably just that season where we have a whole bunch of pollen in the air, so I'm guessing that's what all that's from. It's, I'm not saying that Jeeps specifically get dusty after you wash them, but just something I wanted to point out is that I do see a whole bunch of pollen on here, which is, I just washed this thing, so it'd be nice if the pollen would kind of stop. Maybe that'd be nice. But yeah, moving on here to the back side, same thing here. We have the fender and the body crack right here. So once again, just got the power washer in there as pretty much as far as I could go, and the only portion that is not really clean is just the portion that I was not able to dry off with the towel. Moving on to this portion right here with the protective layer, you can see this little scratch mark right there, as well as a chip from a rock or something right back there. And then looking at the passenger side of the actual body, I don't see any like scratches or anything on here. I do see a few swirl marks just around the body in random places. Now this is just from, me not doing a good job on the ceramic coating process. So, one thing that I explained in that video is that there still were a few like swirl marks after I did the ceramic coating. And that's because I just didn't buff it out as well as I should have. I didn't really spend as much time as I should have doing that. So that's one reason why there still are a few swirl marks here on the passenger side. And then another reason could be that I just didn't dry it off well enough after washing it today. So it could be any of those two things, but I will say with the ceramic coating, it definitely did make it a whole lot easier to clean this thing. Now with the advanced graphene ceramic coating from Adams Polishes, anytime you wash this thing or anytime it gets wet, you can literally see the hydrophobic properties of the coating actually working. So it's pretty cool just to see all the water just like, falling straight off and not actually sticking to the body anywhere that you ceramic coated it. So it's very cool. I would definitely recommend getting your Jeep or any vehicle ceramic coated if you, want to protect the paint that way. Definitely something that I would recommend for sure. Now, getting down here, looking at the underside, I wanted to show you how that turned out. So, I did my best to actually power wash the underside as well, but as you can see here, there still is some dirt left over on the frame right there, as well as on the bottom of the rock rails here too. So, that really goes to show you that if you do want to completely wash the underside, you really do have to take a lot of time. And if I actually wanted to do a good job, then I would have to spend a lot more time and a lot more money. Like I said, it's $10 for 10 minutes at that car wash. If I wanted to actually do a good job, I would have to spend a lot more time and, like I said, actually crawl under there and make sure that I was hitting all the spots. Moving on from the underside, I wanted to talk about the wheel wells here as well. So here's just one little piece. Not sure how it's going to look with the lighting here, but you can see this piece of the wheel well here is not sure if it's supposed to be like that. I feel like it is, but it's kind of flimsy and it's like peeling off here for some reason. Not sure why. I'm guessing maybe whenever I took this thing off-roading, a bunch of sticks and rocks just hit it, and then once I used the power washer, it just peeled it off a little bit farther. Because the power washer that I used at that car wash was definitely super high pressure, probably the most pressurized car wash prep gun that I've ever used. So definitely very impressed with the pressure of that thing. Got a quick look here at the wheel wells again. I think they turned out pretty well. There's just a little bit of dirt and mud left over, but it's, you know, I'm not going to complain about that. I think it looks very good compared to how it was before. Then moving on here to the front, you know, I think it turned out very well. Like I said, the windshield turned out a lot better than I expected. So basically the whole process that I do whenever I wash my Jeep Wrangler 392 here is I use a self-service car wash, and you know, obviously you go into the bay and I do $10 for 10 minutes. So first I'll start off by using the pre-soak rinse, and that's just like a light mist to kind of get started with taking all the dirt off and just loosen it up as much as possible. So I do that for about the first minute, and then for the next like 6 to 7 minutes I use the high pressure soap. And that's when you want to actually take your time, get all the dirt off, and you know, if you can, crawl underneath the Jeep and get all the dirt from the underside as well, get all the wheel wells and obviously everything from the body as well. And then for about the last like 3 or 4 minutes, that's when I use the rinse. So that's just like high pressure water and nothing else, just to rinse off all the soap and debris and dirt that you got off with the high pressure soap. So after I do that, that's about 10 minutes of washing itself. I drive it out, I, you know, clean up. I use my drying towels for the door sills, the door jambs, the wheels, pretty much everything to get it all dry. So of course the whole entire body, the engine, the hood, the trunk, all the door jambs, the wheels, windows, and then I also do the inside every once in a while. So, you know, I use Adams Polishes products. So today I just used the Adams Polishes interior detailer. I use that for the floor mats and pretty much everything else on the interior as well. So I showed you guys how the outside turned out. I also did do a quick interior detail as well. I want to show you guys how that turned out too. So like I said, I used the Adams Polishes interior detailer. Just did a quick detail here. I usually try to keep the interior pretty clean, so there really wasn't too much to actually clean, but you know, I just like to go over here anytime I wash the exterior, just do a quick detail on the inside as well. Got the mats all cleaned up there. I do have WeatherTechs for my Jeep here, so got the cup holders all cleaned up, got the screen clean, all the buttons in the center console. So you know, overall I think it turned out pretty good. Definitely happy with how clean it got. So overall, I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea that I'm complaining about anything about this Jeep. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, there's literally nothing to complain about with a Jeep Wrangler that has a big 392 V8 in it. You know, the sound in the V8 makes up for literally anything. And even if this was just a regular V6 Wrangler, then all the complaints that I had really don't actually matter for a Wrangler, because like I mentioned, it's made for off-roading. You can't really complain about a Jeep getting dirty if you're going to take it off-road. That's just part of the game, part of Jeep ownership. But you know, I wanted to make this video to show you, if you are looking to get into Jeep Wranglers, into off-roading or anything like that, then you know, you just have to be prepared for this kind of stuff. And you know, my assumption is that most people who are into off-roading definitely already know that stuff is going to get very dirty and very muddy depending on what kind of off-roading you do. So you know, I'm definitely the type of guy that I like to get my Jeep, you know, I like to use my Jeep, get it a little bit dirty, but then I also do like to keep it clean like it is right now. So you know, I take it off-roading, immediately wash it right after that, and keep it clean until the next time I take it off-roading. So that's just how I go. I know a lot of hardcore Jeep enthusiasts just take it off-roading, never clean it. That's awesome as well, but I also like to preserve my Jeep and, you know, get rid of any kind of rust and stop any kind of rust from happening before it happens. That's kind of my reasoning for why I keep my Jeep this clean and why I wash it directly after off-roading. And also the reasoning for, you know, not really off-roading my XJ, because that Jeep for me is more of a preservation and restoration project. So this Jeep right here is going to be used and driven, and then the XJ is more for preservation purposes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this quick video of, you know, some of the frustrating parts of Jeep Wrangler ownership. Like I said, didn't mean any kind of negativity towards any Jeeps. You know, they're amazing vehicles. Just wanted to give you guys an idea of something you should expect if you are planning on becoming a Wrangler owner or getting into off-roading. So definitely make sure to subscribe for more 392 and XJ videos, and thanks for watching.